All right. Hey there, everybody. Um, Welcome to our second episode of IT Live. Today, we're going to be talking about getting organized. I have my YouTube chat open, so let me know if you guys have any questions or comments, or if you can't hear me, or there's any technical difficulties. Let me know in that chat. I'm going to be checking it throughout the broadcast. Okay. And today we are going to be talking again first about getting organized. Last week, if you didn't catch our episode 1 of IT Live, we were talking about Desmos and how to do accessible math. Today, we're talking about digital organization. And before we do that, though, but before we start talking about the app today, I first want to have this conversation about accessibility. A lot of times, especially this year, as we're in this new digital um, space, a lot of times I take a look at an app and it's completely accessible, and I see people on Facebook or people email me saying, "Oh, this app isn't accessible. What am I doing wrong?" And I think that we need to have this conversation about what does accessibility really mean. And also that's why we started doing these IT Live episodes. Now, there's a difference between inaccessibility and inability to access. All right, let's think about Braille. If somebody was given a piece of Braille and they did not know Braille, whether they were blind or sighted, that Braille, they would not be able to access that Braille. Does that mean that that Braille is, quote, inaccessible? Not necessarily, but that does mean that they probably need to learn the Braille alphabet. They need to learn the Braille contractions, everything like that. Now, these IT Live episodes, where do they kind of belong in this accessibility realm? Well, these are like the storybooks. These are like if you were giving somebody a Braille storybook and saying, "Let's read this storybook out loud." It does not teach Braille. This does not teach the foundational skills of screen readers, or how to access technology, or what you should be doing with your students that are just beginning to use a screen reader, right? This is not the let's learn the alphabet and contractions. This is like, let's read a book together. Okay. This is showing you different apps, different mainstream apps that are accessible and how to access them as long as you have the skills. Right. So that's a little bit of a conversation about accessibility. Now, a lot of people, I think, when I see either live clients or I talk to some of my colleagues that email me or request consultations, they'll say, we'll start this conversation, and it becomes very clear to me that the only instruction that they give on screen readers or in technology is this type of instruction. Let's take a look at an app and figure out how to access it. Now, is this type of instruction important? Absolutely. But it's like step 35, right? It's step like 35, 40. It's not step 2. Right. So let's say you're with a student who has never accessed a computer before. You're teaching them something like JAWS, NVDA, Chromevox, something like that. And you should be starting with the alphabet, right? If you, just like Braille, you should be starting with those letters of contractions. All right. You shouldn't jump to let's read a whole Braille textbook. You should start with those foundational skills, not let's take a look at your like the app Schoology and try to figure out how to access it. Okay. And that's where I think a little bit of confusion comes along. Now, what happens when you do take a look at the app Schoology and you don't have those foundational skills is it's kind of like trying to go to a construction site and not bringing a tool bag, right? You're not going to be very useful. And actually, you're going to walk away from that construction site being like, oh, construction is so hard. Well, you didn't bring your tools with you, right? Because you don't have them. So that's why we're saying that's great. Have these IT Live videos, have the watch these apps, make a note. These apps are accessible and how to access them, but don't dismiss the foundational skills. Learn your ABCs, learn your contractions before you start reading that Braille textbook. Okay. Now it's really confusing because a lot of times, I'm going to share my screen for a second here. A lot of times, and I say a lot of times, I mean, before recently, there hasn't been a lot of ideas or even resources out there to teach those foundational skills when it comes to accessible technology, right? Well, there hasn't been any resources that teach you how to teach JAWS, how to teach NVDA, how to teach a Braille note taker. All we get are kind of these piecemeal, like these IT Live episodes, these piecemeal like navigation sequences. Like, let's talk about an app and how it's accessible, right? So where do you get that? Well, there's not very many places to go, and that's why we're a company. That's why IT exists. So what you can do is we've put together on our website, we have courses that you pay for, and we have open enrollment periods. Log on to our website. That's itvision.com, EYETVISION.com. We also, as long as you make an account with us, we have a free resources tab. So this is completely free. You just, all you have to do is sign up, get an account on the IT Learning Portal, and then you just go to this free resources tab. Okay. In this free resources tab, we have, first of all, our free mini course that will walk you through how to do an instruction on a screen reader. We also do some one-on-one coaching. You can request a 15-minute consultation if you do have a specific question. And we also have our free resources. That's JAWS, NVDA, Chromevox, right? In each of these resources, you can see we go through methodologies. These aren't, let's figure out an app. This is the first method of how to access the internet with a screen reader. This is the second method. This is the third method. So it's really starting to teach you those building blocks, those ABCs of screen reader technology, accessible technology, things like that. If we go down below, there's tons of free videos that you can use to start that instruction, to start those foundational skills lessons, okay? And what we're doing on IT Live, even today, this is, again, step number 35. Now, is it important for you as an instructor or a parent or even a screen reader user? Is it important for you to know these navigation sequences? Absolutely. But just know that this is not what you should be doing on Monday if you're just beginning to using a screen reader. This is like what you are shooting for, right? This is what we're aiming for, all right? Maybe for the end of the school year, maybe for next school year, okay? If you're just beginning. Now, let's say your student is a great screen reader user, right? I've seen lots and lots and lots of screen reader users be great screen reader users, but they're missing foundational skills. Now, what happens then is that when you give them an unfamiliar piece of software, what do? I need somebody to explain the navigation sequence for me. I need somebody to tell me step 1, step 2, step 3. There's lots of students that look like they're doing great on a screen reader that do not have foundational skills. And guess what? That makes them dependent on somebody to tell them the navigation sequence. Okay. We don't want that either. So taking a look at these ABCs, taking a look at these fundamental screen reader skills is really, really, really important. Okay. Now that's the end of my rant for now. Of course, I'll be doing another one later. But let's talk first before we even get into today. Today is going to be a little bit special because we are going to show one app, on how to get organized, but we're going to be accessing this app through multiple devices. This is another accessibility thing that I think people are confused by. People will try to go and use an app on the Braille Note Touch and it won't be accessible. This is the thing. Computers are king when it comes to accessibility. At this point in 2020, if your student can use a screen reader, then that's the best chance for them being able to access a piece of unfamiliar software. Why? Well, because every single piece of software, in order to be accessible, needs to have two things, needs to have two characteristics. Number one, it has to be able to be used on the operating system that you're using it on, right? So if you're trying to use Schoology, it has to be able to work on the computer, or it has to be able to work on the Braille Note Touch, or it has to be able to work on your phone. And then number two, it has to be accessible to a student with a visual impairment. So it has to be screen reader accessible. Now I say screen reader as a general term in that it has to be able to, everything has to be read, right? Out loud or in Braille, all right? Screen reader as voiceover for iOS, or maybe Keysoft, it has to be screen reader accessible. The problem is with the Braille Note Touch is that a lot of times that first item is not true. You access Schoology on a Braille Note Touch, and it just doesn't work well with the operating system. We haven't even gotten to the second characteristic. Maybe everything can be read, but the software just is not able to be read with the operating system. Now, on a computer, you know that every single piece of software available today will work on a Windows computer, right? Will work on a Chromebook. Why? Because that's a necessity for software to be sold. So that number one step is automatically taken care of. If number one is taken care of, all we have to worry about is number two. So it's just a better chance that software is going to be able to be accessed on a computer. Today, we are going to be showing one app that is accessible on a computer, is accessible on an iPhone. I guarantee you, if you go onto the Braille Note Touch, is not going to be accessible. So just making sure that your student knows to use multiple devices with your guidance, of course, which devices those are, but also noting that computers are king, right? In this world of 2020, computers are your best shot for accessibility, most flexibility, best chance of the operating system working well with the software. And you have multiple screen reader options, right? I'm on a Windows PC. Today, we're going to be jumping back and forth between JAWS and NVDA. So if it doesn't work with NVDA, you can use it with JAWS. If it doesn't work with JAWS, you can use it with NVDA. Okay, so multiple options. Okay. Now, what are we going to be doing today? Let's quit talking about accessibility. What are we doing? So today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about digital organization. A crazy thing has happened this year. I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of us are virtual, right? Virtual or hybrid, or even if you're in person, there's a huge reliance, more so than usual, on digital learning. Whether that's digital learning through video conferencing platforms, through learning management systems like Schoology, like Canvas, like Google Classroom, everything is digital. And we know that our students with visual impairments need instruction on organization, but organization has now changed, right? It's not about opening your backpack and seeing all the crumpled papers at the bottom. It's now about digital organization. So organizing files, organizing emails, organizing tasks. And that third thing is what we're going to be talking about today, is organizing tasks. I have a lot of students this year that they go home, quote, go home, because we're all virtual in Maryland. And when I say go home, I put it in quotes because they're not really going home. They're just leaving school. They're logging off of the computer, and they're required to do some sort of homework or asynchronous learning, right? And they sit down with no structure. They've gotten so many files, so many tasks, so many things that they have to do that day that they just spin their wheels and then they don't do anything and they don't turn anything in. So many students like this, right? Today, we're going to be talking about how to organize your tasks if you're a student with a screen reader that uses a screen reader, and what types of devices you should be learning those on. If you've noticed, if you're watching our live stream, you've noticed that, oh, maybe you haven't, but I actually have two things joined today. I'm now joined to this live stream with my computer and also with my iPhone. Today, we're going to be learning about first using this app on your computer and then learning it on the iPhone, and when you should use each. Today, the app we're going to be talking about is called Todoist. Okay, that's T-O-D-O, like to do, and then I-S-T. All right, it's kind of like a play off of to-do list. And in order to show you this, I'm going to share my screen. All right, there's my website back again. I'm going to exit itvision.com. I'm going to make a new tab. And why don't I just start with key commands, okay? I'm going to type in todoist.com, T-O-D-O-I-S-T. Let me just do a Google search for it. I'm going to use, of course, I can use my main content area. So I can press tab, enter, enter. If you don't know about that, definitely check out our website. There's definitely resources on how to do this. And here we are at our to-do list, or to our Todoist homepage, okay? In order to access this, I'm going to turn on NVDA, all right? And then we're going to hop over to JAWS to show you the equivalent. Let's see what happens. Love it. I'm going to turn speech off for a second as we talk about navigation. Now, this is very important that you know the difference between navigating HTML and navigating a web app, right? HTML, without getting too much into it, is the way that you would use our three methods of internet navigation. We're going to use a little bit of internet navigation today. But HTML is just our simple way, our three methods of internet navigation. If you're on an HTML website, you're going to be using one of those three methods, okay? Now, if you're on a web app, you may be using one of those three methods, but you also might be using the app's key commands. We saw this in Desmos last week when we went to Desmos/accessibility, desmos.com/accessibility, and they had all of their own key commands that they programmed into their software. Well, Todoist has the same thing. Okay. And that's kind of outside of our 3 methods of internet navigation. You just kind of have to know that web app's key commands. Now, how do you know the web app's key commands? Well, it's really easy. I'm going to show you just in real time. All I'm going to do is make a new tab. Let me turn on my speech. Oh, there we go. And all I'm going to do is type in the app name, so Todoist, and then accessibility. And you know what? I'm just going to add in short keyboard commands just to make sure I find it. All right. And so here we are on our Google search. I am going to, of course, press tab, press enter on the skip to main content. Okay, awesome. And here we actually see it in our search results automatically in text. But if I click on this link down here, okay, and so now we have our keyboard shortcuts for Todoist open. Okay, this is a really important skill that I would teach our learners if they are past their foundational skills and they're starting to learn about navigation sequences. To tell them, okay, we're going to use a new app today, open the keyboard shortcuts for this app. Of course, they have to Google it. That's fine. All right, because that's exactly what I do. Right. Let me get to use my quick keys method 2 to get to my heading. Okay. So we're in a table. Oh. All right. And if I use my table commands, I can go through this table step by step. So hearing the action and then the keyboard command. Just for the sake of making sure that everybody can see my screen, I am going to just use my scroll wheel. But if you don't know about using a table and using table commands, visit our website. Okay, those are those foundational commands that you should know. Okay, so I'm going to switch tabs back to Todoist. And we're going to talk a little bit about navigation. Now, again, we were talking about the difference between HTML and a web app. If you are using a web app, this Todoist is a web app, just like Google Drive, just like Google Docs, just like Desmos last week during our live stream. These are web apps. If they have their own unique keyboard commands, you are going to be very conscious of the mode that you're in. If you don't know about modes, that's a foundational skill. Definitely check out our website. But really, we want to switch back and forth between, in NVDA, it's called browse mode and focus mode. All right. In short, I just am going to call this HTML mode and web app mode. Okay. Because that's exactly what we're doing. In one mode, right, in browse mode, we are ready and willing to use those methods of internet navigation. We're ready to use quick keys. We can use elements lists. We can use tab and shift tab. It's ready to go. All right. If we switch to focus mode, we are ready to use those Todoist key commands. If we want to switch back to HTML, if we want to switch back to using method 2, we got to switch back to the browse mode. Okay. Now, how do you do this in NVDA? Well, it's NVDA key plus space, and you're going to hear this. All right. Now I'm in focus mode. I'm ready to use my Todoist key commands. All right. We're going to learn about that key command in a second. I pressed Q, and it's going to open a quick task. But let's say I want to now navigate, right? I want to use my quick keys. So I'm going to switch back to browse mode or HTML mode. Okay. And now I can go through using method 2. Okay. So we have to be very mode conscious. What does this look like in JAWS? I'm going to show you. I'm going to quit NVDA. I'm going to open JAWS, Windows key, JAWS. Let's see what happens. Oh yeah, definitely switched my program focus for me. Very weird. Okay, so now we're in JAWS. What does this look like for JAWS? Well, it's the same idea, except for instead of modes, you have to turn on and off your PC cursor. What is the PC cursor? Don't worry about it. All right. All you have to think about is when your PC cursor is on, you are ready to use the 3 methods of internet navigation. You're ready to navigate HTML. If your PC cursor is off, you are ready to use the web app key commands. This is the same idea as if you are familiar with using Google Drive with a screen reader. This is the same idea. How do you turn on and off your PC cursor? Well, it's the JAWS key plus Z. Now it's off, PC cursor off. Now it's on. So if I have my PC cursor on, I can go through, let's just say headings, right? There's no headings on this page. I knew that, but I just wanted to show you. Now, if I turn off my PC cursor, I'm ready to use my Todoist key commands. I can press Q, ready to add a quick task, okay? So this is really, really important, and you'll see how important it is that I can switch back and forth between turning on and off my PC cursor if I'm using JAWS, or switching back and forth between browse and focus mode if I'm using NVDA, okay? So those are modes. Now, today, we are going to talk about a navigation sequence. What is a navigation sequence? Well, it's a sequence of steps that you want to do in order to complete a task on a piece of software, okay? In order to start this navigation sequence, I need to tell you about navigation, okay? In order to navigate Todoist, some apps like Microsoft Teams, like Google Drive, are very like layout specific. This is not, right? I don't really need to know where things are. I just need to know how to get there, okay? So you don't really have to know about the layout. But what you do need to know about is that we're going to be navigating heavily by landmarks. If you don't know what landmarks are or regions are, they're just pieces of the website or the web app that have been marked by the developer that says this is important, right? And we can access that by quick keys. The quick key for regions on JAWS is R, of course, for regions. For NVDA, it's D for landmarks. I don't know why it's D. But for landmarks. So I'm going to start that right now. Now, before I even get into this, I just want to show you what Todoist is, okay? So let me turn off the speech in JAWS. All right, and what is Todoist? So Todoist is a really good app for organizing tasks into projects. If you are a K through 12 student, if you're a college student, if you're teaching a K through 12 student, this is where I would put your classes. So the projects that I have right now, I have algebra, French, and earth science. Okay, those are my classes that I have for the day. Let's say that I'm a student and I'm in algebra class. Okay, I can click on the algebra task project, and I can add a task to algebra. Add a task. So what I want to do is, let's say, like complete, let's do a regular algebra assignment, right? Problems 3 through 30, 3 through 31. Oh, complete problems 1 to 31, odd, right? That's what they always say. I can mark this with a class. So I can say hashtag algebra, even though I'm already here. And I can say that this is due tomorrow. All right. Once I add this task, guess what? There is one task in algebra. If I go to upcoming assignments here, I can see that tomorrow I have a science test, and look, oh, complete problems 1 to 31 odd in my algebra class. What does this look like on a screen reader? Let's say I'm a screen reader user and I want to make sure that I can access those tasks. Well, that's where we go back to our navigation routine. Again, I'm using JAWS right now. I'm going to be navigating by region, quick keys, region. Okay. I want to make sure my PC cursor is on, right? Because we're going to be navigating by quick keys. All right. And I can navigate by region. Ready? I'm going to press R for region. Let's say I want to go to, at this point, I can press my down arrow key. I can go to the algebra folder. enter. And then I'm going to go to my to my region algebra, the main content area, by pressing R again. Okay. And now I'm at algebra. I can see what's on the list for algebra. Let's see. Oh. Yep. And at this point, and I wanted to show you this for a second, at this point, people would say, oh, Todoist, inaccessible, right? Inaccessible. Yes, this is hard to access with a screen reader. And guess what? I don't teach my students how to do this. But the point of this exercise is by the end of this, I will show you why Todoist can be accessed and why it should be. Okay. So yes, it's hard to access tasks in Todoist, but what I can do, what I do tell my students is to have Todoist open, because look how easy it is to add a task. It doesn't matter where in Todoist you are. Let's say I'm in a French class, right? Right now I'm in the algebra folder. I'm somewhere random, okay? But if I'm in French class, then I just have my Todoist app open. I can turn off the PC cursor, and now I can use my Todoist key command Q to add a quick task, and I can say read French textbook, page 3. No, because that says priority. Page 3. Due tomorrow. I'm just typing in TOM for tomorrow, and I can add this to my French class. Hashtag FRENCH. Enter. I've added it to French. I can press enter. It doesn't matter if you can navigate by region. It doesn't matter if you can navigate by quick keys. It doesn't matter if you understand modes, right? All you have to do is come onto Todoist, add a task, right? And it's added to your projects. Now, of course, for my students, especially those who are not advanced screen reader users, still do this in Todoist, in the computer browser, in the tab. I tell them, when you're in class, open your Todoist, be ready to add a quick task, okay? But you're asking me, Cody, what's the point of adding a quick task if they can't access the task later? They can access the task later. I'm going to show you how, okay? And this is why we had that whole talk about accessibility at the beginning. Todoist isn't accessible? No, it's not. You can add tasks really quickly in the browser, and guess what? Check them really quickly on your phone. Aha, this is where I'm talking about, number one, bringing all of your tools to your construction site. If you show up to the construction site with just a hammer, it's going to be really hard for you to, if somebody gives you a screw, right? You have to use all of your tools, okay? So that's where we're going to leave it right now for adding tasks in Todoist. Really quickly, all I need you to know is, number one, turning on and off the PC cursor, making sure that it's off, pressing Q to add a quick task, typing it in, right? And the last thing that I want to show you is, if you are the TVI, or you are the case manager, or you are the parent, you can share all of your lists with, you can have your students share all of their lists with you. So my students that I keep track of, I say, hey, guess what? Share your Todoist list. And then I can see the tasks that they have and the tasks that they've checked off, and I can manage that organization system with them, not for them, but with them. Okay. So that we can have a conversation in session about, hey, I see that you had algebra last period. There's nothing in your Todoist. Did you forget to write something down? And then they're like, oh yeah, that's right. Let me add a quick task. Okay. So that's where we're going to leave it. Now, I have 3 assignments in my Todoist right now. How do I access them? I'm going to switch over to my phone, over to my iPhone, to show you how easy it is to mark tasks complete, how easy it is to run through tasks, and to really drive home this point that computer is king, number one, but multiple devices are the best. If there is one device you should know, it's the computer. But oftentimes, sometimes we need 2 devices in order to make something actually accessible and actually not necessarily accessible, but able to access, right? So give me a second. I'm going to switch over to my phone. First of all, I'm going to stop sharing here. And I'm going to turn off my video. All right. So give me 1 second as I start sharing on my phone. Oh, and let me turn off JAWS too. All right. So now here is my iPhone. Now, of course, you can see all of my apps, whatever. I'm going to turn on voiceover on. And I'm going to run through to go to Todoist.
Hidden brain, mail, BCPs, Todoist.
I'm going to open Todoist.
Todoist. You're all done for today. Hashtag Todoist 0.
Awesome. So first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to see all of the tasks that are due today. Right now, Todoist is already telling me I haven't done anything. It says you're all done for today, but that's great. I want to see what it has to be done tomorrow. Okay. Of course, I have 3 tasks in my to-do list. One of them I just added. I want to see if I can get there. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go all the way up to the top to back. All right. To get to my lists.
Swipe up or down. You're all more actions. Search today. Back button. Button. Actions available.
All right. So now that I'm in my list, I can go to inbox, today, upcoming, or any one of my projects. So I'm going to go to upcoming.
Button. Button.
Oh, of course.
November 2020.
I don't know why it's
button.
Not reading that. Usually it does.
More action. Search. Upcoming. Back button. Search button. 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 Actions. Characters. Button. November 2020.
That's very strange. It worked this morning. Well, you know, apparently there are some things that are inaccessible about this app, but let's I'll put in a correction to that as after the live stream goes live or gets recorded. All right. But now what we can do is we're in our upcoming list. Okay. So if I go to upcoming, I can scroll through my most recent tasks. Let's do it.
Today, cap S, cap, Sunday, today, tomorrow, middle dot, Wednesday, November 25th.
Okay. So I can get to tomorrow.
Science test, Project Earth Science. Button.
And I can say, oh, okay,
actions available.
So my science test is due tomorrow. Let's say I've studied for that. What I can do is I can use the rotor to get to actions.
Characters, actions.
All right. I can swipe down until it says mark complete.
Complete.
And I can double tap. I've done my science test.
Complete problems 1 to 31 odd. Project algebra.
And now I know what to do next. All right. Complete problems 1 to 31 odd for the algebra project. Okay. So as you can see, this is a much easier way to access your Todoist rather than the browser. Now, is the browser accessible? Absolutely. You can access the browser with the screen reader, but are you able to access it? Many students, the answer is no. Why not just use your phone? Okay. Many of my students access the browser to input tasks and access their phone to read tasks. All right. I'm going to show you why I use the browser at all. Okay. I'm going to swipe all the way to the bottom to get to the add task button.
Today, middle, tomorrow, Thursday, November, vertical scroll bar, quick add.
Quick add. I'm going to double tap.
G. Study Portuguese every weekday. Text field is editing. Character mode. Insertion.
I'm going to stop speech there. And this is where the iPhone becomes a little inconvenient. Anytime you have to type, you got to dictate. Okay. Now, of course, dictating is not bad, right? But if you're in the middle of your class, even if it's virtual, got to mute your mic. Then you got to dictate, right? Or you have to use if you have a Braille display, you have to make sure your Braille display is connected to your phone, right? It's just not convenient. Just like on the browser, on the internet browser, it's just not convenient to read tasks on the browser. Now, is it accessible? Sure, it's accessible. Are you able to access it conveniently? No. And that's why we have multiple devices. That's why it's important to have multiple devices in order to access something, right? Let's take this this opportunity to talk about how the fact that when I went into my list, those buttons weren't reading. I don't know. Sometimes an update comes and something that was accessible to, this morning or yesterday is not accessible now. That's why it's important to have multiple methods of accessing something. If that happens now, what I can do is I know that I can access it with my browser with my screen reader skills, right? So it's really, really important to have these multiple methods of accessing something and to create a system. Notice that I have a system here where I enter something on the computer and then I read it on my phone. Okay, that's a system. All right, that's a navigation sequence. I'm going to stop sharing on my phone here and I'm going to switch back to my computer.
Screen recording in progress. Voiceover off.
All right. And I'm back on my computer. All right. So this is just a brief overview of number one, Todoist, and of course, a great example of a conversation about inaccessibility. Now, a lot of people might say out to this video, well, it's really important that we hold these companies accountable to make sure that they are always accessible. I definitely agree. All right. For example, in that glitch in Todoist iOS app, absolutely they should be held accountable to make sure that that is fixed. However, if you are sitting in front of a student and that student needs to work on their organization, I don't agree with the fact that we always bail ourselves out as professionals with accessibility. If we say to that student, oh, nothing is accessible, right? Then what is that student going to learn? Well, that student is going to learn that at the end of the day, you can just call something inaccessible and then you don't have to do it, right? I do agree with holding people accountable for accessibility. I don't agree with number one, always saying it in front of students and then not trying other devices and not holding yourself accountable for your own skills, for your own foundational skills on a screen reader. Many times I see many professionals say, hey, guess what? This is inaccessible, but it's not. It's just that those foundational skills are lacking, right? Just like that construction site example, right? We go to a construction site without a tool bag. You can't do the job. Guess what? Who are they going to blame? The person without the tool bag, right? They're not going to blame the construction site, right? Now, I know that this is a little bit of a harsh, opinion, but I just think we need to be more in balance, right? So we need to make sure that we're holding ourselves and our students accountable for our skills and realizing there is a difference between inaccessibility and ability to access, right? Okay. If you do have any questions, well, first of all, I want to show you guys a couple more things. First of all, let me make sure that JAWS is shut off so that we don't have JAWS speaking in the middle of this. I'm going to share my screen one more time. If you just were joining us talking about Todoist, I just want to show you one more time. If you are interested in learning more about Todoist, definitely go to these keyboard shortcut sites. Okay, Todoist, just like Desmos, has done a really great job of making sure that everything in the browser is accessible with keyboard shortcuts, and that should not be wasted. So definitely take a look at Todoist if you're planning on using it. Todoist keyboard shortcuts. Okay, that's number one. Number two, if you are interested in learning more about those foundational skills, again, itvision.com. Once you sign up, make an account for free, no commitments. You go up to free resources and take a look at some of our resources here. I really recommend, if you are somebody that is teaching screen readers on a regular basis, our free course, Introduction to Screen Reader Instruction. In that course, you'll get all of our cheat sheets. You'll get our screen reader skills progression, which is a scope and sequence of all of the foundational skills that you should be teaching in order. You'll also get our lesson brainstorming worksheet, and we have tons of courses coming up. Our open enrollment coming up is slated for the end of January. And we do have a really cool course coming up that links with our course that we released in October, Basic Screen Reader Navigation. And we're coming out with the instructor version of that course. So that means that you're going to be getting data sheets. You're going to be getting fun activities. We made a whole activity called Navigation Candyland that we're going to be putting in that course, a game that you can play with your learners. Your learners can play against each other. You're also going to be getting lesson plan templates in that course, and it's all going to be linked to your students' basic internet navigation course. So that means anytime your student takes a quiz in their course, you get an immediate email with their score attached. So we have a lot of cool things coming up. If you do have free resources that are not here, at the very bottom of this page here, you can click on submit my resources now. When you do that, you can submit a resource that we have not included. That is a free resource. It has to be non-copyrighted or copyright flexible, so that we can put it on our webpage. But we really want to make sure that we are offering free resources to learn those foundational skills, to build that toolbox, to build that tool bag, so that when your student shows up to the construction site, they have all the tools that they need to access the app. Okay. If I don't see any of you, for those of you who I do see for work or for our other commitments, I will see you later this week. But for those of you who I don't see on a regular basis, who just know me through IT, have a great, fun, safe Thanksgiving, whether you're doing that with family, whether you're going to be social distancing. Please have a safe Thanksgiving. And I will see you all next week. We will be doing IT live episodes every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. So please sign on. If you do miss it, you can access the recorded version of the episode at our Facebook group, AT for VI Professionals. If you go to Facebook and search AT for VI Professionals, go ahead and submit your request to join. You'll be added, and you can see that IT live episode the next day on the AT for VI Professionals Facebook group. You can also view this episode on our YouTube channel. And if you want to receive notifications on our live episodes, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that bell notification icon. What that will do is anytime that we do go live, you'll get a notification to your phone, to your computer, whatever you have set up, saying, hey, guess what? We're live and we're doing this episode on whatever. Okay. Have a great Thanksgiving. Have a great holiday. I hope you all have a great short week and a great long weekend. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you next week. Okay. Bye.